Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Deskside Chats podcast presented by the City of Northport. My name is Madison Heid, and I'm the Deputy Communications Manager for the city. Everyone has a story, right? In this podcast, I'll be learning the stories of our employees right here in the City of Northport. Join me as I chat with folks from all walks of life, across departments and divisions. We're building a community of unity. Get to know the staff working for you every day. Now let's lean in and chat Deskside. This week on Deskside Chats, we are chatting with Deputy Emergency Manager Mike Nevarez. Mike has been through a lot in terms of emergency management since moving here in 2013. He's been through Irma, he's been through COVID-19, he's been through Ian. He talks to us about all of his experiences with those things, as well as a bit of what he likes to do outside of work. We hope you enjoy. Hey, Mike.
Hi, Madison.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to learn more about you. All right. So let's start from the beginning. So you are an East Coast guy.
I am an East Coast guy.
Okay. So tell me about where you were brought up and what that was like.
Sure. So I was born and I grew up in northern Maryland in Harford County. So I grew up there. I went to school there and I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County before making the move down here to Florida in 2013.
Okay, so what was it like growing up in Maryland? Like, I'm not an East Coast gal. I'm a Midwest gal through and through. So what was it like growing up on the East Coast?
So it was nice. The thing about Maryland that I loved is the changing of seasons. It's something that I miss a bit down here in Florida.
I'm with you.
So I grew up in a nice little community, but I was tired of the snow. That was a big thing. That was why my parents came down here, and it's ultimately why I came down here as well. But down here, I fell in love with the beaches, and I met my beautiful fiance, who is from Florida, and she tells me that she's in love with the marshes. So I'm yet to be that point of Floridian.
Oh, the marshes?
The marshes, yes.
Where all the scary things lurk?
Apparently, she doesn't find them scary.
Oh, the interesting things lurk?
The interesting things,
Sorry,
yes.
to your fiance? Interesting things.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said that your parents moving down here is what ultimately brought you?
Yes.
So they moved to this, because I know we'll get into your work in Lee County, but was it more Lee County area that they went to?
They did. They went down to Estero in Lee County.
Okay.
And then ultimately, I didn't end up moving down until 4 years later in 13.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So we had kind of the same trajectory. That's what brought me here too, was my parents. So yeah. And again, I missed the seasons as well. I understand. Yeah. So you went to school for public administration. You said,
yes,
I want to do public service. I don't know what I want to do in public service, right?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah. So I did political science on my undergraduate, and then I went to FGCU down here, and I did public administration. And I knew, that public service drive was what I wanted. But finding the path for that is something that I was kind of challenged with. So I knew I wanted to be somewhere working in government. It's just what that exact trajectory was going to be was my unknown.
Right. So then I guess your first known was starting in procurement?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So how did you find that path?
So I ultimately just threw my hat out there to a bunch of different positions. I kind of was applying to cities, counties, the state of Florida as well, looking for what that path is going to be. And I found the position with Lee County in procurement management, where I was a contracts analyst. And it kind of exposed me to all the different departments in Lee County. So procurement really is the purchasing process for government. And there's a lot of regulations involved there using taxpayer dollars. And I got to work with transportation, utilities, all of the different departments on their procurement projects.
Wow. That feels like maybe potentially a lot of math. Potentially a lot of pressure.
A lot of math, there were a lot of spreadsheets involved. It was a lot of understanding and knowing the rules and regulations at all levels of government for the responsible use of those taxpayer dollars.
Sure. And for wanting to work in public service, that seems like a great place to start.
It was.
Right? To kind of get that base of knowing how it all functions from the very baseline of procurement stuff.
Yep. And it gave me that exposure to different departments. So working with transportation, working with utilities, working with public safety. But it was in that exposure to public safety is how I kind of found this path to emergency management.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was seeing is that you kind of got into sort of the EOC, Emergency Operations Center side of things.
I did. So my first exposure to that was Hurricane Irma in 2017. So I'd been with the county for about 6 months at that point, still pretty new.
With Lee County, yeah.
Yes, with Lee County. So I was still pretty new to Lee County, but I was learning their contracts. I was learning who we were making purchases from for different supplies. And then for Hurricane Irma, I was pulled into the logistics section to do supply ordering. So if Lee County needed to buy certain supplies in preparation for the hurricane, it would funnel through the logistics section for the ordering.
Gotcha. So then what was Irma like in Lee County? Because I was here at Northport City Hall for Irma, but what was it like in Lee County?
So it was a very big ramp up to Irma. It was forecasted very similar to how Hurricane Ian was forecasted. There were the storm surge numbers that everyone was seeing that was quite alarming, and it was something that Florida hadn't seen in quite a while. And ultimately, it ended up having a 30-mile shift just before landfall into the center of the state. So we didn't see the storm surge numbers with Irma that were predicted. And I think that, to a point, it did a disservice to us in preparing us for Ian.
Sure, right, because it kind of all ended up ramping down. You get into the EOC stuff, and then COVID comes.
And COVID was a situation that none of us expected. Nobody was really ready for.
Right.
And it was a different level of resource needs for this long-standing emergency that just lingered on and on. And there was a ramp up, this rush in the beginning that everybody needed the same supplies. We needed gowns, we needed face masks, we needed gloves, we needed to supply all these resources to our first responders to keep them safe as they were going through in the COVID-19 pandemic. And all of a sudden, every agency of every level of government needed the same supplies at the same time.
Right.
And it ended up being this giant crunch for everybody to get the supplies that they needed.
Sure. So I'm guessing that kept you pretty busy.
Very busy, yes.
During that time. I know everybody was dealing with their own challenges in their own world, but procurement and getting the right supplies is a high need, especially with that sort of a problem.
And it ended up in a prolonged engagement and activation of the EOC that lasted for a very long time. Normally EOCs, we ramp up, we deal with an incident, and then deactivate afterwards once that passed. But with COVID, it's something that continued on and on because it's something that just didn't go away.
Right, absolutely. And then just as a quick aside before we keep moving forward is, so Emergency Operations Center, those are put together in like bigger issues. I don't know, of all types, right?
Yep. So the Emergency Operations Center is basically this coordinating facility where we bring in all of our partners, all of our city, our county departments together to work together in one room and to facilitate engagement and work together.
Right. Yes. So that's anything from a hurricane to a pandemic to
tornado,
other things.
Anything that
I'm like afraid to speak them into existence, but we get it, right? A large scale event. So then, all right. So now we're past the last disaster of a pandemic, and now Hurricane Ian comes to see us. So you were still at Lee County for that.
I was.
So, and that was hit direct. Basically. Yes. So tell us about your experience with that. I know you had both work challenges and personal challenges with that one.
I did. So prior to Ian, I made the career move from Lee County Procurement to Lee County Public Safety. So through my experience with COVID and with Irma, I found this resonance with myself with public safety and emergency management. So I made that move, but I'd only been with public safety full-time for about 4 months before Hurricane Ian made the direct impact to Lee County.
Okay, so tell me about what that was like right up top when you guys are planning. And so what happens pre-hurricane in your position?
Right. So there's preparation, there's a ramp up as the emergency management monitors the storm, and we're working very closely with the National Weather Service to monitor the impacts, to figure out where the storm is potentially going to go. There's always going to be, unfortunately, that level of error with it. Right. So Ian, as it was coming through, first looked like it was going to Lee County, and then we all saw that there were these shifts northward. Mm-hmm. So then it looked like it was going up to Tampa, then it looked like it was going up to Tallahassee, and then it shifted back down again, and it left everybody unprepared and uncertain where this thing was going to go. We knew that, unfortunately, it was going to be a large-scale catastrophic event, but we didn't know where it was going to go.
Right, and it's just so interesting because with hurricanes, you can see that they're coming like weeks ahead or whatever, like a long time ahead, and still yet in those last couple days, it can still surprise you. It isn't like a tornado that drops down and surprises you.
Absolutely. And we encourage everybody to be ready, to be listening to the advice and to the direction that we're pushing out. And a lot of times it's done in an abundance of caution. Doing evacuations is never something that we want to have to do, but it's done to protect the lives of the citizens.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and that's of utmost importance, especially in your world. That's the goal.
Right.
That's the mission.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes down to it, that life safety aspect is the most important thing. I understand it's never a fun situation to be in evacuation or going to an evacuation shelter, but it's all about preserving life and saving people's lives.
For sure. So then speaking of that, you're dealing with all that. That's all in your brain floating around. But then you also live in Lee County.
I do.
So tell us about whatever you feel comfortable telling us about at home. What were you dealing with?
Right. I had not been doing this full time for very long, and we prepare as much as we can, but I didn't fully understand the ramifications it would have on the personal lives of myself and the other responders, to the point that, I mean, we're going through it like everybody else was. So my house was in an evacuation zone. I had my in-laws living on one of the barrier islands that was evacuated. We managed to get them evacuated off of the island, and they came to my house with my fiance, but they ended up riding out the storm at my house, and I was trying to maintain contact with my own fiance while I was also scrambling around in the EOC, working to put together all of the logistics we needed to support our operations for the county. And I'm texting her just to make sure that she's doing okay while the storm's going overhead. Cell service is going out, so I lose contact with her. So there's always the part of my mind that's wondering how she's doing, if she's okay. But I also have to some degree put that aside while I'm focusing on the mission in the Emergency Operations Center and getting done what needs to be done to prepare the county for impacts from Ian. That
is all so stressful. I live in Punta Gorda. My family was renting it out at my house. I get it. It's like it's scary stuff. So then at the end, you realize that, was it your neighbor? Something from your neighbor affected your house?
Yeah. So finally, I did get in contact with my fiance, which was a big relief to me.
Absolutely.
She sent me some pictures. So apparently my neighbor's roof had been lifted off by the very strong winds from Ian, lifted up, thrown through the air, and it pierced through my roof, destroying 7 trusses right through my attic and then into my living room. So I now had my neighbor's roof in my living room with a giant skylight that points straight from my living room into the sky.
That's probably not a home improvement upgrade you were hoping for.
No,
not at all. It's not something that you would expect to have to deal with. So what was that in proximity to where your family was riding it out?
Well, so once they heard the howling of the winds outside, they went to an interior room away from all of the windows. There's always the fear of tornadoes in addition to the hurricanes. So they went to a space inside the house that was protected. And luckily, they were no longer in that room when the roof flew through. It got lodged in the alcove. They were all thankfully okay.
Right.
She sent me the pictures afterwards, but I was just thankful that everybody in the house was okay.
Oh, my God. So then you see all those pictures, but then you have to just still keep working, right?
I just set it aside for now. Like, this is something that we're going to deal with later, and then moved along, because we were at this point ordering very valuable, very critical resources that needed to be done to protect and respond to the lives of the people that were impacted, just like myself.
Right. And I think that's really important to highlight, is a lot of people just like you. Like, there were people here kayaking in to keep working. Like, it's when you're in public service, that's the goal, to keep working for the public. Yep. So if there isn't anything dire, like life safety happening, you gotta just
Once
keep
I knew that her life was okay.
Right.
I mean, there were people's houses that were filling up with water. The storm surge was rolling in, so we just needed to, at this point, just triage what we were doing.
Right. Man, what a couple years this has been, huh?
It's been, unfortunately, a lot going on.
My gosh. Yes. So let's transition into like a little bit more of kind of fun things.
Okay.
About let's leave emergency land for a moment.
Yes.
So let's talk about what you like to do outside of here.
Sure.
So you said, I know it's called mountain biking, and I know that we are in Florida.
We are in Florida, and it is mountain. Yes. I get the same reaction whenever I tell somebody about it. So
yeah.
I have a mountain bike, and so I actually go up to. There's different parks where they have trails carved out of parks to have. They're not mountains. Hill biking would be a bit more accurate.
Yeah.
But there's a park I go up to in Central Florida called Alafaya, where they actually have it's an old abandoned quarry that was repurposed as a state park.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then they have trails carved out of those quarry pits. So they have wooden features that they've installed. There's volunteers that actually put together and maintain these trails. So it's a lot of fun when I'm able to go up there and make a weekend out of it.
Awesome. Absolutely. And I know that we have a couple. Have you tried any of the ones here in Northport?
I haven't in Northport yet. There was one in Lee County at Caloosahatchee Preserve that I tried. I would love to find the ones in Northport and ride there.
I think Oaks Park is
Park?
a good one. It has little hills, mountains, Florida mountains.
Florida mountains, yes.
So maybe go check that one out. And then I know also gaming and reading.
Gaming and reading, yep.
Love that.
So if I don't want to leave the house and still want to relax. My fiance is a big reader. She loves to read.
Okay. Do you have a favorite genre?
I'm more into fantasy.
Awesome.
Yes, so things like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones.
That's awesome. Those are always fun. You just get lost in the world.
Exactly.
When you want to,
when I don't,
escape.
I don't want to think about some of the work stuff. I'm able to go home and just relax.
Absolutely. That's great. So my last few questions for you are ones that I ask everybody. I feel like, and you've maybe listened to this podcast. You might know what I'm going to ask you, but we'll see.
It's a surprise.
Okay, great. So what is your favorite movie?
The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay. Is there a particular one or the whole thing?
I would say Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, the last of the original trilogy.
Got it. Okay. I haven't seen all of the Lord of the Rings things.
You have homework now.
Don't be mad at me. I do. I have so much homework from this podcast. I'm in big trouble. I feel like I've never seen anybody's movies that they see. Yeah, nothing against them. I just did. I think I grew up in like Harry Potter land.
Okay.
So I was like trapped in that realm.
Also acceptable.
I have to expand my horizons to Lord of the Rings. So do you have a favorite TV show? Are you a TV guy?
Ooh, I do. I would say my favorite TV show would actually be Scrubs.
Oh.
Have you watched Scrubs?
I have seen Scrubs. I haven't watched it entirely, but I know the premise. I know the characters.
It's a good show. Just stop before the last season.
That's it. I feel like that's a theme with a lot of things, isn't it?
Unfortunately.
Or it's like, I'm always told skip the Parks and Rec first season. Where they're like, just don't.
I would agree with that as well.
It's interesting. Final one. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh.
If you have.
I really enjoy Love Boat ice cream, but I would probably say birthday cake.
Birthday cake ice cream. Okay,
yes.
so the one with like sprinkles
in it. Yes.
That's a great choice. I approve. When's your birthday?
May 15th.
May 15th. Okay, I'm gonna log that.
There you go.
Some birthday cake ice cream going. All right. Well, I think we've reached the end here, Mike. I really appreciate you coming to talk to me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'll talk to you soon for the next Deskside Chat.